got in there?
Dr.
Just
Ahmed,
you got just water, or what do you
there's
got?
water, there's ginger ale, there's diet ginger ale, there's Monster.
No, no monster. You know what? Ginger ale is good. Thank you. Bismillah.
All right.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Mad Malukes. My name is Sim. Along with me are my co-hosts, Sheikh Amir,
Assalamu alaikum.
and the one and only, everyone's favorite, Imad Deen,
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum.
author of The Jerusalem Gangster, My Land Palestine. Make sure to check those out. We'll put in the episode description for you to check out if you are so inclined. Inshallah, you are, because it's a very beneficial book that Imad spent quite a bit of time writing, and a lot of people have found it very informative when they want to get a better idea about a surface level of how or what's happening in Palestine, and maybe not so academic in nature, like
Use a
Edward
language,
Said.
very chill
Absolutely.
language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ordinary people language.
exactly. Brothers and sisters, help us out on patreon.com/the Mad Malukes. Throw a comment in the comment section below. If you cannot help us out monetarily, maybe just throw a comment and hit the like button. Helps out the algorithm, and we deeply appreciate it. Our guest today is a brother by the name of Walid Alvi. You've long regular listeners are very well aware of him. He's been in a past episode reporting out of Egypt, and this time he was able to enter Gaza and joins us back after returning home, and is going to share some of his experiences from Gaza and let us know what exactly went down when he went there. Welcome to the show, Walid.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته بارك الله فيك.
Thanks, warahmatullahi
So why don't you start off in telling us how this came about, and maybe tell us about some of the experiences just getting into Gaza and how you
Yeah.
got into it, because we're always under the impression that, or at least everyone knows that it's not easy to get there. Tell us about
Yeah.
some of the experiences about that.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. That's a good place to start. First of all, Jazakallah khair, thanks again for having me on. Right now, it's a really, really tough spot because basically for the last little while, the Rafah border has been totally closed, right? And so forget Rafah, like generally, we're not able to even enter the Sinai, right? Which is that peninsula, if you will, between mainland Egypt and Gaza. So, alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wallahi, just by it's a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we were able to actually, sorry, before I go on, my views are my own, may not reflect any of my organizations. So just to put that up there. But so us, يعني Humanity Exilium, we were able to get a direct link with the WHO, right? As far as I understand, like from what I saw at Rafah and what I understand from the WHO folks, the only people getting into Gaza right now are directly linked with the UN, right? The only people coming in for humanitarian purposes, right? So even for us, like we were going with the UN convoy, right? We had everything set up with the WHO. We were going with a bunch of UN workers, all that kind of stuff, blue passports and all that. Even with us, it was 11 checkpoints on the way to the border of Gaza, and then, Ya Allah, I think about 6-7 hours it took us at Rafah to get through. So like we left for Gaza at 3 a.m., right? And we just managed to make it there before Maghrib. So like wallahi, it is really sad because the people talk about the line of trucks, right? And you can see it. It's 4 to 5 kilometers long, right? And wallahi, believe me, there's a lot of mushkilat, there's a lot of difficult things that because of the political situation over there has been made. And for security reasons, I can't mention too much on the show, but yeah, it's not an easy process getting in. Even with like us being the few people who are able to get in, right? And so what we could bring in was literally what we could fit in our suitcases, right? So we were carrying around, it was the four of us, right? And we were carrying around, technically three with my organization and one with another organization. We were bringing in 10, sorry, no, it ended up being 18 suitcases, right? Filled with medicine. Right, so I didn't even fill up a carry-on with my own clothes and laptop and all that other kind of stuff. It was just filled with a bunch of medicine we took all the way from Canada, and like wallahi, I'm so glad it felt like a drop in the pond, or sorry, a drop in the ocean, right? But I felt so glad that we did bring it because like the hospitals that we're going to, they'd ran out of antibiotics, they'd ran out of anesthesia, they'd ran out of painkillers, right? So literally, the stuff we were bringing was so direly needed, but it felt so horrible that we can't bring any more in. Like we literally can only bring as much as we can physically carry, right? Like because we're bringing that through the all the checkpoints. We bring that through the 11 checkpoints. Everything in our bags is getting searched as well, right? That's part of the waiting at Rafah, and I think this is okay to mention. So there's no Israeli troops at the border, right? Because it's between the Egyptian government and the government of Gaza. But because of, if you know the agreements the Egyptian military has, sorry, the Egyptian government has with Israel, like the Camp David Accords and all that kind of stuff, Israel's permission is needed before they allow entry into Rafah. They allow entry into Gaza, right? So, actually, this is worth telling. Before we came in, all of our files were screened. Firstly, by the WHO. Then that was sent to the Egyptian government, then the Egyptian military, then the Israeli government, right? So we had to get agreement from all these different bodies. So like my file with my goofy face and all my empty credentials was sitting on the desk of an Israeli government official, right? At some point in the last few weeks. But Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, all of that cleared through. Um, yeah, no, what I was going to mention was at the border itself, it's a bit funny because there's no troops, but they tell us before coming in, like the WHO briefed us on this, that there's going to be cameras operated by the Israeli government, and that's their presence at the border, if you will, right? And it was funny because so I spotted one of the cameras because it's not just like wall cameras, right? It's free moving. It's like if you've played like I don't think it's Portal, but one of those old games where like the machine gun turret pops out, it's exactly like that, where it's like a huge giant camera thing popped out of the wall, then it's rotating and moving around to different places in the room. And so it was funny because once I spotted the camera, I pointed it out to some of the doctors, and then as soon as I pointed to the camera, it looked the opposite other direction, like 180 degrees.
Oh wow!
So
Very dystopian,
was
as if someone's controlling it remotely.
no, it was. It's a remotely
Oh,
controlled
it's
camera.
remotely controlled, so they're watching you
Yeah, yeah.
live as you're. Wow.
Yeah, so I found it funny. Like I was playing like peekaboo with an Israeli, I don't know, soldier government official.
It's just so funny because you
No,
you point at it and you're like, oh, and you turn
no, it
around.
was like a cartoon. Wallahi, it was like a cartoon because as soon as I pointed to it and like the camera just flipped 180 degrees because it was pointing directly at me at first.
Yeah.
As I was showing it to my friend, it was pointed directly at me.
Wow.
And then as soon as I pointed, it turned 180. But no,
So
alhamdulillah,
how long did you actually have to wait at the crossing before you got in?
Yeah, so a lot of the wait was the other checkpoints across the Sinai, right? There are 11 checkpoints across the Sinai where bags are searched, all that kind of stuff. To be honest, I was sleeping through most of them.
So wait, those are the
Um,
Egyptian checkpoints?
yes,
And so what
yeah,
are the
across the
Egyptians
Sinai.
checking for?
The Sinai is a very, very tense area right now. And especially if you are going to Gaza, there's a lot of checkpoints across the Sinai, because I mean, generally, it's a very, very militarized area. Um, Maybe after the whole situation calms down, I'll talk to you guys about what the Sinai is like in Egypt right now, which, Allahumma musta'an, there's a lot of stuff going on there as well. But
Is it just
so
stuff
it's
you
it's a
just?
routine thing,
Is this just something you can't discuss right now? Is that?
security reasons, yeah,
Yeah. No,
because
I got
when I
it.
when I go back, I'm going to have to, go through Egypt.
Got it. Of
Um,
course, understandable.
but
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I was just
no.
making sure because if you were gonna say
No,
there's
no,
not
you're
enough
good, you're
time,
good.
that we have a lot of time, but
Yeah.
no, alhamdulillah, I get it.
No, no, no. It's yeah. The actual at Rafah, it took us, if I remember correctly, approximately 6 hours getting in and 5 hours getting out when we eventually left Gaza. Um, Alhamdulillah, most of it wasn't too difficult, right? Because it was just them, checking our passports, communicating back and forth, searching all of our luggage and all that. So we were just sitting and waiting for most of it. But then again, that being said, with anyone who's not linked directly with the UN, it's a much tougher experience, right? That's not a 1 day experience. That's a multiple day experience. Like I am potentially, right, getting to Rafah. But Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alamin, because we were with who we were, it wasn't that tough. Something about the border though, like there were cobwebs over a certain part of the border facility because it's been closed for so long, and the only people who are going through are UN officials. Um, it really it seemed so weird. Like for one example, like the bathroom hadn't been cleaned in months, right? You could see cobwebs over various parts of the border. When
Hmm.
before the war, it's a very lively facility, right? There's booths to purchase Egyptian like phone plans and all that kind of stuff, and Ghazan phone plans, and all that kind of stuff. That's been shacked down for months. That's been closed for months. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think I went into a bit too much detail, but that's the whole thing of getting to was approximately what is that 14 hour experience. But yeah,
Wow.
And
alhamdulillah.
so you get into Gaza, and what's next?
Yeah, like your first time in Gaza. Well, I'm curious of like
Yeah.
you get into Gaza, you're like,
Yeah,
dude, I made it. Now what happens, right? Because
yeah,
you've been waiting for so long, but all that fear that you have or whatever the jitters that you have, it's over. Now you're like, all right, we're here now. What happens after we're here now?
yeah. It's crazy. No, alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, this is where us and the UN kind of split off, right? And I mean, we visited some UN facilities a lot during our time there, but this is where from going to Gaza we split. The UN officials they're taking with UN cars to wherever they're going, and so we partnered with some folks in the Ministry of Health in the Gaza Ministry of Health while we were there. So alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, wherever we were going inside of Gaza, like the Ministry of Health took care of that, and wallahi, some very incredible folks in the Ministry of Health. And because I mean, again, most of these folks are people who haven't gotten paid in a long time because of everything that's going on, but they're still managing to do incredible work, alhamdulillah. Everyone. So basically, after
Hmm.
we came through the border, oh, sorry, one funny thing that is that even in the war, somehow the Gazan side of the border was so much significantly more fancy than the Egyptian side. Which is a bit of like a Tahya Masr thing. But like they had free Wi-Fi at the Gazan border, which was so inane to me. We later found out that I guess one of the reasons why the border area is nice is because it's like the one part of Gaza that's not at direct risk of being bombed. So Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, it's still if you go outside, it looks like a semblance of what Gaza was before the war, right? And the
Hmm.
reason I say that is because no other part of Gaza does, and it's really sad. So basically, once we got out, we got picked up by some guys at the Ministry of Health, who drove us into the Emirates Hospital, right? I'm sure most of these names are okay for me to say now because we're out of there, alhamdulillah, rabbil alamin. But as far as I know, yes, no, I know this for sure, that in Rafah right now, the Emirates Hospital is the main functioning hospital. It left in Rafah. If you want to,
In
like,
all of
we
Rafah.
visited the European. Yes. I mean, it's the biggest one.
Hmm.
There's two more, right? There's Tal Sultan, and there's the name's not reaching with the other one, but they don't have a lot of the facilities that Emirates does.
Hmm.
And when I say that, like when I say they don't have the facilities, like we mean basic stuff. We mean like beds and stuff like that, right? So we mean like being able to take childbirths and
SubhanAllah.
stuff like that. Um, and a lot of the stuff was, oh, by the way, we were originally set to go to Nasser Hospital. And as we were going in, um, we were still set to go to Nasser Hospital. But some of the people on our team, not with the UN, but some of the people from Canada who were managing everything, um, it was, they were a bit concerned about that just because the complex had been bombed like a few days before we arrived. So Alhamdulillah Rabbil
Hmm.
Alameen, they called that off and we stayed mostly in Rafah and in a few areas in Khan Yunis. Um, but because a couple of days after we arrived, like the UN lost contact with Nasser because it was raided. And the crazy thing is, I think 150 workers in Nasser were arrested. And like we were talking about this because like at the UN meetings, we're talking about this because like the MOH's guys in Nasser were arrested. And when I say guys, I mean like um the main like the most skilled surgeons and doctors left in Gaza, right? Because the thing is, before Nasser was stormed, um everyone at a certain there was a certain point in time where people had the choice to leave. And people had the idea, okay, we're being bombed. That means if we're going by a Shifa, which is just about what happened, right? We have about 2 weeks before we're stormed, right? But and I know like the people we're working with in MOH in the Ministry of Health, they know most of these people, right? Most of these doctors and surgeons who are at Nasser, because Nasser was the main hospital in Gaza up until right when we came. Left in Gaza. Sorry, I should mention. Um, but so everyone who was arrested there were people who, because of the patients that were left in the hospital, decided to stay there, right, willingly, right? Whereas
Hmm.
they could have run to Rafah. And now that's a whole. Sorry, my mind's everywhere, by the way, because
No,
there's
it's
wallahi, there's
fine.
so much going on,
No, that's
right?
fine. So when you enter into the Emirates, where you go to the Emirates hospital,
Yeah.
what happens?
So,
And
anyways, we're
Walid,
there.
are you guys
Yeah,
only delivering medical supplies right now? Your convoy?
we did some food delivery, but just because of, I mean, everything's so tough with food, right? And medicine's one of the things where we can get through the border without too many eyebrows being raised. Um, and I mean, it's one of the things that were in crucial supply. So yeah, we were doing only medicine. We did sub food distribution as well, but we didn't bring the food.
Got it.
We used some other charities as partners.
Got it.
But like that was a very minor part of what we did, right? Because we brought in about 120 food packets, which again for Gaza is nothing right now. And then we just mostly it was all that medicine, and then we had three doctors with us who
Wow.
were operating the hospitals, right? Um, so we get down to Emirates. I mean, at that point, it's late in the day, so we're mostly just getting briefed on everything in Gaza. Um, one thing is we didn't have connection most of the time in Gaza, just because like you can find like certain small areas of the city where you might have some internet, right? Like for example, the UN building. Um, for a couple of days, the only reason why we went to the UN building is so we could get internet and so we could talk to people back home.
Hmm.
Um, but like the only other place in Gaza where we found internet was next to the Israeli border because you can get connection from Israeli telecoms there. But because the cell infrastructure in Gaza has been like so utterly collapsed, um, it was a bit scary. But most of the time we were there, we had like what's the term? Like we had no contact with anyone outside. Sometimes you could get enough connection to do a call within Gaza, or text within Gaza, but like LTE or 4G or data in general was, that was a no-go in most areas. But so the first night was mostly just settling in, meeting the MOH folks. Um, I mean, I'm just remembering right now, like the scene of the hospital, because this is again the main hospital left in Gaza after Nasser, and it was just Ya Rabbi, it was so crowded, and it was so. One of the things is right that we know that if you guys know, 1.7 million people are living in Rafah right now. It's a city of 250K, and everyone from all around Gaza has been forcibly moved into Rafah, right? So like, and so much so that people are living on the streets. Like, there's no roads anymore. When you're going in a car, like you can't go above 20, 30 kilometers per hour. I'm not sure how much that is in miles per hour, but a very, very slow pace, right? Like a school zone.
Hmm.
Just because like the streets covered in tents, right? Like an interesting thing was, the streets look really similar to some other countries like Egypt and stuff like that, right? But every shop that's on the street has been shuttered down for months because in the war there's nothing you can do. There's no way you can buy things. There's no way you can sell things when there's total blockade. Um, so yeah, Allah, just it really does feel like it's the most densely populated place on Earth because at right now it is. Um, and like nowhere is quiet, right? Like when so they shoved us into a room, basically not shoved, the English folks were very very kind to us, but basically we came into a room and we were sleeping on the floor. There was a spare like it's not really a bed, but one of the hospital like stretchers that like my mom with me was sleeping on, but the rest of us were sleeping on the floor. Um, and Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, right? We had a place, we had a roof over our heads where we could sleep. That was enough for us. But really the thing that I remember was just nowhere is quiet. You can always hear crying or yelling or something or other happening. And wallahi, that first night was so heartbreaking, right? And I remember when I was trying to go to sleep, because one thing, like I really love cats, right? Wherever I go in Gaza and Egypt and Turkey, like I have to meet all the cats in the street. Like, um, I was left up for the whole night because there were some starving cats crying outside the window, right? And but it's so hard, like it touches you, right? Because
Yeah,
even the
it's
animals are
screeching
starving.
too. It's
Even
like
the
a
animals
screeching
are
noise. Yeah,
sorry.
it can be very screeching too. So it's very unsettling.
Yeah, very much so. And Alhamdulillah, when we first arrived, there wasn't the amount of drones that there were later on in our trip. So it was mostly just the street noises. Um,
You know, I was just
Alhamdulillah,
thinking
yeah,
because the Western audiences don't really care as much
yeah.
about Palestinians. Maybe if you appeal to the animals
Mm.
starving,
Literally, that
that
was the
that
thought.
that, that might be
Someone,
something that would warm up hearts. You get, what's her name? Who comes on late at night? That one singer lady. She comes on with the starving animals. Help us.
Ellen?
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah,
I forgot the singer's name, but
yeah. The battered animals and cats and dogs. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. But yeah.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking. Usually, people's wallets start opening up like that. Anyway, go ahead,
Yeah,
Waleed.
man.
No, no, no.
Jeez.
That's like one of the workers in fraternity told me to do that. He said like Waleed, before you enter Gaza, bring in cat food. Um, I mean, partly it was that I forgot to bring it in, but like just didn't have space in the luggage as well. Um, so alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, like in close to our last day, we got our hands on some meat. So alhamdulillah we were able to like feed some of the cats at the hospital with that meat. Um, but wallahi as well, by the way, the fact that there are still cats living in Gaza are a testament to the people. Because again, everyone in Gaza is starving. And the one thing as well that really struck me was it's a very, very like they're people of akhlaq. They're people of like coming together, right? There's no idea of hoarding in Gaza right now, right? Like, so literally, I thought if this had happened to any other people, if these were any other people starving other than the people of Gaza, you would have had like hundreds of thousands of them starved to death at this point. You would have had hoarding. You would have had fighting amongst each other. But wallahi, the kind of adab you see amongst the people, right? Like the doctors, the surgeons, the people who are like in the Ministry of Health, they're not eating anything
Hmm.
because they're sharing their food, right? They're sharing their food with their families. They're sharing their food with everyone they can share with, right? Even by the way, when we were there, I think part of it is like just the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the sakina that was there in Gaza somehow. But like I didn't eat almost anything. We had some food that we brought with us because we were told by the WHO, um, be self-sufficient, bring food with you, bring your own food with you, right? Because you won't have any food in Gaza. But even then, like there were some days where I'd eat like a protein bar and that's it, khalas. Because it feels like really bad to eat while, everything's going around you.
So
Um,
just
yeah,
imagine that in 2023 and at a small piece of land that has a sea at one side of it, it's open air, all different types of countries surrounding it, and you just made a statement that they informed you that there is no food in Gaza. A statement like that in this world and this time, for the whole world to see, for even Western listeners, for the American people, for the European people. I don't try to appeal to the Zionists anymore. I've never really tried to appeal to them because they're an empty shell as far as I'm concerned, and that's
yeah,
that's why. But to make a statement like that,
Hmm.
an organization that's supposed to be taking care of the world, that has been put into place, and this is who told you this?
WHO, World Health
WHO.
Or
We
WHO.
met with them in we
And
met them with
for
them in their
them
headquarters in Egypt
to make
before we
a
left.
statement like that and not to be on international TV screaming at the top of their lung, to bring attention to this, because what let me say it this way: the World Health Organization, the United Nations, NATO, the the court that heard the case against Israel are all corrupt organizations, all organizations who are controlled by the Zionist entity, who are useless to ordinary people, especially Muslims and people of color, whether black or brown. To make a statement like that to you, they should be ashamed of themselves without having to scream out in front of every camera that points their way. What would the situation be there like without them? It's not much different with them being there or them being not there, to be honest with you. And you probably know better than me, but you understand where I'm coming from. I am a Palestinian who was born in Jerusalem, who has some family members in Gaza, and the rest of my family is between Jerusalem and West Bank. So to me, when they can tell you something like that in 2024, it's disturbing.
It's very
It's
disturbing.
disgusting.
It is, man.
I just wanted to make that point.
No, thank you for bringing that out, because we kind of brushed over it.
It just when he said it, it just shot like a jolt of electricity through me. Bring your own food. There is no food in Gaza. Imagine that statement. Just if you could just digest it, put it in your mind and let it sink in. This is the World Health Organization saying this.
Yeah, it's so mind-boggling. You're mentioning, like, they're surrounded by sea. We asked some of the folks, some of the friends we made there, why don't you fish? Like, you're going days without eating anything. They said, like, they shoot our boats.
Inna lillah.
We can't bring a boat on the water without it getting shot.
My point about it's surrounded by a sea. My point is a statement.
No, I know.
Yeah. No, it's not a new, big brother. The statement like that would fit something like in the middle of the mountains where no planes or helicopters can get through.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. It's so easy to get through. It's not whether from somebody from. I know they can't. It's supposed to be 12 miles out. They can't even make it 1 mile out into the water without being shot at. But I meant in the sense that it's so accessible, rather different than if somebody was stranded in a small piece of land the size of Gaza in the middle of the forest, rainforest in Brazil, where it's difficult for helicopters and you would have to bring machinery to knock off certain paths so trucks can get through. That's what I meant by that.
Jazakallah khairan, man.
Yeah. No. That's
How
really
long were
important to
you
say.
in the Emirates hospital? And
Honestly, we were there for a night, but because of how crowded it was, and partly because some of the doctors we were with specialize in primary care, not emergency. So we, after the first day, we transitioned to, I think it's okay saying it's Dar Sultan, which is one of the government hospitals in mid Rafah, if you will.
And how long did it take you guys to get there because of all the crowdedness and maybe the checkpoints, and from the Emirates to Dar Sultan?
So it took us about like 10-15 minutes.
Okay, cool.
The thing is, it would have taken you 12 minutes walking. Rafah is a very small place, I realized once I was there. We could have walked from Emirates to Tal Sultan, right? But part of the thing is, just for safety reasons, we have to stay in Emirates. We have to. This is another thing, by the way. We had a lot of meetings throughout our stay there, before our stay there. Probably now after, we'll have some meetings with the WHO folks. And so one of the things that this is this is their doctrine, right? That they have said to every team going to Gaza right now, like their up to date messages that, okay, you can't go outside where you're staying. You can't go outside the hospital. You can't move anywhere in Gaza without informing us. And so they have like an online form and everything, where basically what they do is, because again, hospitals are bombed, ambulances walking the street are bombed. There's a curfew, by the way, from Maghrib to Fajr. It's been fully communicated that any car driving after Maghrib, there's no hesitation in bombing it.
It becomes a target.
Yeah, it is very much a target. And once we had to drive after Maghrib, right? And it's a very terrifying experience. But Ya Allah, my head's everywhere. But yeah, no. So their thing was, okay, you can't communicate anywhere without telling us because they'll talk with the IDF. They said, okay, if you tell us before you go, give us a few hours notice, we'll communicate with the IDF. And they're people before you move, so there's no risk of getting bombed, right? Yeah, so no, but anyways, there's a lot of and most of the security protocols we couldn't follow on the ground, right? We didn't have this is like best case scenario. We didn't have Wi-Fi, right? How do we tell? How do we do fill out an online form and log in with our like UN information when we don't have any internet, we don't have any connection, we don't have any contact with anybody outside of the hospital we're staying at, right? Um, but hey, that was the thing, right? And partly because I mean in our organization as well, just especially for people who some of the people on our team don't speak Arabic, right? Don't look. One of the people with us, if you know Dr. Ipeng Ji, mashallah, amazing guy. He's gotten a lot of flack now in Canada because I think the medical board fired him for being pro-Palestinian, and so now it's a whole thing with him in Canada right now. He's a doctor out of Ottawa. He went with this as well. He's not Muslim, right? But for people like him, for people like some other people on our team who don't visibly look local and all that kind of stuff, it's not too safe. I mean, everyone in our organization is working with a certain level of risk, right? Everyone in our team has a different level of the amount of risk they're okay with. So for certain things, we need to, ensure that we're doing things that everyone's going to be comfortable with on our team. But khair, yeah. So when we moved around, we're mostly moving with hospitals. Um, Okay, I very likely might get in trouble for this. I went out a few times myself, right, or with local Ghazan without in a car, right, just to see the streets of Gaza, just to visit the masjid. Yeah, I'm gonna get in trouble for that. But officially, no, you don't move anyone without a car. But yeah, no, Emirates and Tal Sultan are on the same streets. They're like it's I forget the meter length, right, but they're on the same street. It's on the same street with the same masjid. Tal Sultan Emirates.
So
Alhamdulillah, I
is
wasn't too
there
bad.
how? So since you're already there, is there like a special like security check when you get in, or you can just go in, anyone can walk in, or do you go in with kind of like the people from your convoy and you guys like meet somebody? Like how does that work, and like what happens when you go in and what do you see?
So right now, yeah, this is a funny thing that says as well. There's not very much security anywhere. Maybe it's part of the thing is before the war they might have had a lot more security, but just um, the culture of the people of Gaza, right? There's no expectation that someone's going to lie about who they are and enter the building,
Hmm.
right? There's some preparation in case of like spies or Israeli spies that are in Gaza. Um, I got suspected of being one at some point, but I was being dumb. I was walking by myself the whole thing. Um, but no, like there's not very much security, right? If you're going, generally, I mean, for example, Tal Sultan has a few security guards on hand, in case anything happens. But we're going with MOH ambulances, right? So they see an ambulance, it's with the Ministry of Health.
Hmm.
Let us in, khalas. That's the amount of security checks that there is, because I mean, right now they have so much more in their hands, right? Everyone who um, is working with the Ministry of Health is busy with moving supplies, right?
Hmm.
Helping people out, treating patients, managing patients, all that kind of stuff. So it's like security isn't even something they have the luxury of thinking about,
So I guess what I'm
right?
also asking is, so are you guys dropping off medication, or are you guys going inside and meeting people and like medication? I'm just trying to envision so the listeners can
Yeah,
understand the experience of what
fair.
you had, kind of just relating to them your experience. So
Yeah.
are you meeting somebody outside and you're dropping off medication and then you're going to another hospital? Like how does that work, or do you go inside?
So we were keeping the medications with us, right? Just because, again, I guess like for medications and aid, you need to have some kind of security protocols. So generally, I mean, with the places we were seeing patients there, right? Tala Sultan, every day of the week would be seeing patients there, and then a couple of days we went to the European hospital as well, so we were
Mm.
seeing patients there as well. So we met with basically the mudir, right, the manager of the hospital, and handed off the supplies to them. We didn't hand them all off in one place. Part of the thing was assessing need. Part of the thing was okay, like us talking to the managers and all that kind of stuff. So we split off in a few different places. There's yet another place as well, a clinic set up inside an old school, right, which is also a refugee center now. We dropped some medications off there. We dropped some off at Tal Sultan, some off at, I believe we dropped some at Emirates as well. And then most of the hospitals we dropped off at European. Because, sorry, I said Emirates was the biggest in Gaza. Sorry, I mean in Rafah. European is still the main hospital in Gaza, all of itself, right? And European's the last hospital in Khan Yunis. But that's because, I mean, it's associated with the European Union, and it's a little bit outside of the way of the city. So that's the thought. The thought, at least, is that that's why it hasn't been bombed yet. Funnily enough, and I have a video of this, but we weren't allowed to film that, and I don't think it's okay for me to post it. But while we were recording videos in the European hospital, we had bombers go above us and drop projectiles. Literally less than a kilometer away from where we were. Like you could see the planes right above you, and you could hear the projectiles as they fell. You could feel the whole building shaking, all of the windows about to shatter. Right? And literally, we talked to. That was when we were meeting the manager of the hospital then, and the crazy thing was, okay, I'll mention one story really, really quickly. When we were there at the European hospital, and we were meeting with the manager, we had a rocket strike right above us on the general complex of the hospital. I don't know where it is. I don't know if one of the other buildings was hit or. And by the way, all the area around the hospital was refugee tents, right? So no matter where it's hitting, the rocket killed a lot of people. But and we were there meeting the manager. I was sitting next to my mother, and we heard the bomber come over. And at this point in our last few days, bombers were constant, day and night. It's a very, very eerie sound. I still can't get used to the sound of planes anymore, just because I'm reminded of the bombers. But this bomber was really, really close, and then we heard something drop. Right, there's a whistling sound to the rocket, and then we had about 3 or 4 seconds, and I was just looking at my mother like, astaghfirullah, I hope that if that happens again, I'll say the shahada. But
wait, your mother was with you?
My mother was with you. She was a doctor on the trip.
SubhanAllah. Did you guys know that?
Yeah.
No,
Wow.
I didn't know that.
Allahu Akbar. Sorry,
Allah.
because I remember you saying something on the stretcher and mother, but I didn't know if you said mother or brother.
Yeah.
Oh, from the other place. Okay, SubhanAllah.
No, no,
Bless you and your family,
He's-
brother.
He said it so fast,
no,
I
no,
didn't
no.
hear it.
Yeah, because he said, I was like, did he say
Yeah.
mother or brother?
Oh.
But anyway, I'm so sorry. I'm just amazed
No,
that you
you're
guys
good,
are
you're
doing
good.
this as a family. And your mother's a
You're
doctor.
good.
Allah preserve her and put lots of barakah in your
Allahumma
health and your
ameen,
wealth.
Allahumma ameen.
And,
So anyway,
No,
so
honestly,
you were with your
yeah.
mother and you hear the whistling sound and you had 3 or 4 seconds.
And literally, I'm just looking at her like I don't even know what I'm thinking because it's not enough time to think of anything. But alhamdulillah, it wasn't us. The rocket dropped. Just everything shook. Like I thought the windows were about to break because every window was shattering everything. And sorry, and this is a small story. It's a bit off topic, but so as it dropped, of course, like the manager could see us. He had his kids with him, by the way. We were meeting his kids there as well, his kids and his nephews, and they saw how scared we were, so they started joking it off. Right? So like it happens. It happens all the time. Like what are you jumping around for? It's just a rocket. And they started joking around with it just to calm us down a little bit. But I think the most emotional moment I had in Gaza was right after that. So he was having us meet his kids, and just life as normal. You just go on, and you don't do anything because the bombing is constant now. He had us meet his kids, right? So then he had his youngest kid recite what he did hifz of today. And so I told him, I'm like, okay, I have a couple chocolates with me. If you recite the whole surah without mistakes, I'll give you a chocolate. Right? And this kid was, I think, 8, 9 years old. And he recited Surah Al-Buruj, which,
Wow.
if you know Surah Al-Buruj, and right then, as the rocket's dropping, like, just there's still a chill talking about it, right? That was a really, really emotional moment for me. Because, Allahu Alam, like that surah means something different to those people, right? That surah means something different when you're seeing it happen right in front of you. But yeah, Allahu musta'an.
I was just going to
Sorry,
briefly say that
yeah.
the whistling sound that you hear from the missile dropping, those are the American supplied JDAM bombs. Those were the bombs that fell on the
First hospital
that first hospital that they denied.
that they attempted to say that it was
some jihad rocket or something like that.
Exactly.
And then we found out from the video evidence that it was the whistling.
Not just that. An American expert in weapons, actually debunked it and said, "Wait a minute, stop playing games. That's a military weapon that's dropped. It makes that whistle noise before actually the big boom behind it.
Yeah.
And that's what hit the, and even in that, Hamas or no one in that strip has weapons that are strong enough to do that kind of damage.
Yeah.
I mean, you could see the damage that it does. It has a little hole in the street or whatever. And I mean, if it hits somebody, the rockets from Gaza, it would obviously kill them, but it doesn't do damage to knock down half a
infrastructure.
building like that.
Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just, what's so crazy to me, that we're arguing over who dropped the bomb and stuff like that. When you're there, like right before I had sat with the South manager, I saw like physically more than 7 planes while I was at the European hospital. You can see them constantly, and that was a bit of the like enraging thing when I was sitting with the people of Gaza, right? That they have money to send planes day and night constantly. And again, this is all across Gaza, right? And even in just we're sitting, we went across different parts of Gaza. In the last few days, it was constant wherever we are. In the days, there's going to be drones, and there's going to be bombers a few times in the day. At night, constant drones, constant bombers, and much more lower flying, right? So it's to the point where like sometimes I had trouble spotting them in the sky, right? But some of the kids have gotten very used to it, so they'd point it out to me whenever there was a drone flying by us. And it's so crazy to me that like that this is a discussion going on. Okay, no, it was a Hamas bomb. It wasn't an Israeli bomb. We could see planes going from the Israeli border and back to the Israeli border 24/7, constantly, all day.
That's
Yes.
insane.
And dropping, and like you could hear the bombings constantly as well. And the crazy thing is, again, most of the drones were surveillance drones, right? So the idea was that if a drone comes right by your area, and then a few minutes later a bomber comes, that's panic, right? That's like, okay, they're targeting someone right where you are. And like literally, there's a pattern to it. There's a pattern to the drone coming for surveillance, a few minutes later the bomber coming, and you hearing the bomber beside. It's just so wild that this is like the mental gymnastics. Like when you see that literally right in front of you, like bayin, right? Like aynu yaqeen, right? It's just it's such a different feeling.
Well,
Yeah, you're saying something, sorry.
what's the psychology of the people on the ground? How are they just living daily? Are they just intense?
Yeah.
So what's their conditions like?
Right. So I'll first mention the physical conditions and some more of the mental conditions, right? How they're feeling about it. So, Ya Rabbi. First of all, everyone looks like a shadow of themselves, right? Like I'm seeing WhatsApp photos of people that were taken before the war, and I literally can't recognize them. Like literally sticks and bones, these people, because everyone, no matter if you're like a doctor, a surgeon, and the funny thing with this was, I remember when we were giving supplies to European, one of the happiest moments I had in Gaza were when they were taking out the supplies, and then like one of the head surgeons, he opened up a bottle of multivitamins, and they were kids multivitamins, and he tried one, and so then some more doctors started eating it, and he told them that like they're kids multivitamins, and they said like, no, it tastes really good though. And then I remember that like, okay, they're all so malnourished, they're all so starved, like the doctors and surgeons, you can't see like fat in them anymore, like they need the nourishment as well, right? And that was just a really happy moment of them, that's the first time in months they've had something like that, right? We had moments where I was meeting a kid, and it's the first time in 4 months he's had chocolate, right? Like a little bit that I brought with me. Ya Rabbi. So it's a very, very tough physical condition, the kind of diseases that you see from people being malnourished. If someone's injured, like literally, we were treating some amputees with paracetamol, right? Like there's with Tylenol, with Advil, right? Because there's nothing to treat them with. There's a total blockade and everything. So the physical condition is absolutely horrible, right? Where like people literally it's have to pay up to $50 for bread. And I mean, what I mean for bread, I mean a slice of bread. I mean, like if you know like the Syrian flatbread, a slice of that is $50 US, right? And these people, no one's gotten paid in months and months, right? Um, like it's just mind-boggling. Even the aid that we brought, um, like the aid that we managed to get, having it in Gaza, it was $30 per person, and in like the aid relief world, that's unheard of, right? Like when we were distributing food in Turkey, when we were doing it in Bangladesh, we're talking about like because we're buying it locally and we're doing it here as well. We're talking about like maybe $1.50 per meal packet, and we think okay, that's a good price. We're gonna go with it, right? Or even less than $1. Right here, like because we managed to get a meal packet with meat as well. And I'm not exaggerating when I say there's no animals left in Gaza. Every animal has been slaughtered. Right? There's no cows left in Gaza. There's no sheep left in Gaza. Even though there's ranches of sheep still standing, but there's no animals anymore because again, the people have done what they can to like survive together, right?
Not only that, but there's
Yeah.
a good amount of videos of the Zionists shooting cows and sheep to murder them so people wouldn't have anything to eat. So we just want to make sure we get that out there too.
Yeah.
To not forget that these so-called Israelis, this Zionist entity, and I'm speaking for myself, not for anyone here, or you or your organization. I'm speaking on my behalf and on the behalf of my people, that this is just another indication of how savage the Zionist entity is, that it constantly and continuously commits war crimes, especially by unaliving goats and cows. And there's the video right there.
Just before we we were talking
Look at the sheep.
So, shooting.
Look at that. Just so. Yep.
Sorry, can you guys
So
hear me?
we want to
Yeah.
just make sure.
We're just
that-
showing a video of
Yeah.
the goats getting shot.
Okay, you're good.
just to show that this is a pattern of trying
Yeah,
to starve the people of Gaza.
yeah,
This is just so a lot of those animals. I've seen also other videos of
Them actually
of
blowing
cows
up. Yeah.
of shooting cows with heavy machine gun fire. This is just to show that these people are genocidal. These people are people who are committing a Holocaust against the Palestinian people and have been committing a Holocaust for almost 100 years.
And you know what the crazy thing is? When he mentioned that they have to communicate with the IDF that there's going to be a car going through,
Exactly.
not only did the Zionist entity make life so difficult for the Palestinians that other Palestinians they brought them in from other parts of Palestine into Gaza, right? That's why the population is increasing, or increased in the past, and then narrowing them down even more into Rafah. But even that, everything is like you talk about the checkpoints. You talk about the 11 checkpoints that the Sinai and Egypt having obviously contracts and agreements with Israel that we're going to protect your border, and everyone's working together. And then when they get into Rafah and Gaza, in Gaza in specific, they have to communicate with the IDF by saying, "Hey, there's going to be this car going." So it's up to them. It's like a big game. Like
Yeah. So when somebody says that Gaza is not occupied, does that sound like Gaza's not
Gaza's
occupied?
occupied.
Because Gaza's occupied by air.
Yeah.
And has always been occupied by air. Not only by air, it's been occupied by those kibbutzes where October 7th happened.
Yeah.
Those are military posts that sit there and antagonize the Palestinian people who are in an open air concentration camp. They sit there and they don't do no jobs. They don't have nothing. All they do all day long is antagonize Palestinians. And every one of those homes on those kibbutzes has military grade weapons. Not only that, they also brought an orchestra not too long ago and had it play with the speakers blaring towards Gaza to antagonize the people. This is mental
Constant state
torture.
of torture.
This is ethnic cleansing. What you see there when somebody is shooting cows and goats and chickens and things like that people can feed on, this is no more than a war crime, a way to starve the
That's true.
population and murder them.
Literally
That's
war
what
crime.
this is. And the whole world sits idly by, and we talk about the jade bomb that's dropped, JDAM bomb that was dropped, that whistles before it causes all this destruction. Let me just say, so that way we're clear. There has been some fragments left and found with bombs with the stamp of Turkey on it. So Turkey, yes, they're using bombs made in Turkey and using it against the Palestinians. So for the Muslims, for Turkey, for Erdogan, for the King of Jordan, for Sisi, for all you criminals and cowards and Zionist puppets, all of you are going to face Allah, and you're going to hell for everything you're doing to the Palestinian people. The Palestinian people, we've endured this for centuries by many different groups and empires and whatever else you want to put on there, or whatever title you want to put, who has invaded us, the Crusaders. And we overcame, and we are the people of Canaan. We are the people of Palestine. We are the people of the Levant. The same people that have been traumatized and have been occupied and butchered for centuries, and we still resist and we still exist. As long as one Palestinian is alive, Israel will not have the ability to call itself a nation that is based on facts and truth.
Subhanallah.
I want to show another video of
Amen, Imad. Jazakumullah khairan, brother.
Jazakallah khair, bro. Picture of
الناس المنتظرين المساعدات
Israelis dropping bombs on a beach.
تقدم للآليات وإطلاق قذيفة الآن على المواطنين. هيني أنا منطقة منخفضة. الآن إطلاق قذيفة على المواطنين وهم ينتظرون المساعدات غرب مدينة غزة على شارع الرشيد. قوات الاحتلال تطلق قذيفة على المواطنين. إطلاق قذائف على المواطنين الآن. إطلاق قذائف وهم ينتظرون المساعدات غرب شارع الرشيد في مدينة غزة.
Sheikh, can you translate that?
Yeah, they were. Go ahead, Sheikh.
No,
Stop it.
معاناة الناس المنتظرين.
So in the Gharb, in the west point of Gaza, I can't remember the exact city that he mentioned, that they dropped a bomb and they're waiting for the help to come for the people that are affected and the harm that happened over there on Shara Rashid on Rashid Street, just probably a name of a general street that everybody knows over there. Yeah, it's rough, dude.
All of them were just waiting for food distribution, and
instead-
they just instead getting carpet bombed.
Instead, they were receiving artillery rounds.
That's crazy. Walid, if you can, it's probably not an easy thing to talk about, but most people, because I'm still thinking about this, brother, I'm not going to lie, man. Most people, when they go places, they want to go on their own. And they don't want to take family with them with the possibility of something bad happening. Right? What is it like traveling with your mother, bro? To Gaza.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it. I'd like to.
I'll come back around to a couple points on the last point. It's really stressful. Basically, my parents, may Allah bless them, they've been in this work for many years. They've been in Bangladesh, in Myanmar, in Turkey, in Syria, a lot of places, right?
Wow.
So this mission, it was for my mom. She's going whether or not I'm coming, and it was a lot of having to convince my mom and dad to let me go.
Wow. It's a family thing,
but,
mashallah.
Yeah, Ya Rabbi. But Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I mean, some of the people that we were with were so, you can see the nur from their faces. And I mean this with no exaggeration. you can quite literally see the nur of sabr in their faces, right? So alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alamin, with most people we didn't feel too unsafe, even when all of that was going on, right? But no, as for my mother, she's a very stubborn person. May Allah bless her. So she's done stuff like this before, and whether or not I would have come, she would have done it either way.
SubhanAllah. Wow.
But
Wow, that's good to know, man.
Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen.
You know, it gives
I'm
us hope,
glad
man.
that-
These type of stories give us hope, man. SubhanAllah.
I'm glad that I was able to come along as well and see all that for myself. There's a couple points as well on the last
Go
point,
ahead.
if you don't mind.
No, of
And
course. Go ahead.
there's only a few more points left on this because inshallah there's a lot of positive stuff that I want to talk about as well about the people of Gaza. But I talked to some folks who had just escaped from Gaza right before we entered. And one of the points was about everything that's going on, about the food and all that kind of stuff. And so until right now, they're allowing 10 trucks in a day into Rafah for 2 million people, right? So it's like, and again, with those 10 trucks, you don't know how many thousands of dollars of bribes. And I can mention how many thousands of dollars.
Real
but
quick, I don't want to cut you, but the estimate
no, you're good.
the estimate is stated that to have any dent in relief, you need 1,000 trucks a day to come in. So he said 10. They estimate to even break it, to be at where it's beneficial, you need 1,000 trucks to come in a day.
So even the 10 is ihana. The 10 is like giving a penny for a
Imagine,
tip to somebody.
What's 10 trucks out of 1,000? What percentage is that? And they say they need 1,000 at least to come in to make an impact.
Whoosh.
This is the point.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize.
You're good. Don't worry about it. All of the trucks that we saw, the thousands of trucks, sorry, not thousands, like maybe or more than 100,000 trucks that we saw on the border of Gaza Rafah. All those that were there since the start of the war, we talked to someone who's monitoring the situation down there in Egypt. It's going to take more than a year for that to clear. Like even like under if these guidelines don't change too much, the people of Gaza cannot wait a year. I mean, we're talking about like the trucks that are on the border waiting right now, right? And that's much of the 100,000. I'm not counting in that. I'm only counting the ones that are directly in line right now, not the ones that are waiting behind Rafah in Arish. But Ya Rab, so the thing was, I was talking with them was, they were talking about how the ihtilal, the occupation. There's a very clear strategy in this to keep the people of Gaza barely alive. Because I talked about this with them, that the people of Gaza are very, very strong people. And wallahi, I mean that. If you're going to starve them to death, عادي, they'll handle it. They'll say, حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل, they'll say, إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون, and خلاص. But there's a strategy of psychologically breaking them down. When you're allowing, and again, 10 trucks of aid. You're talking about a meal for, what, 50,000, 60,000 meals for a population of 2 million people, right? So they're trying to create scarcity, they're trying to create panic, they're trying to get the people of Gaza to fight each other, right? Well, alhamdulillah, I mean, as I've seen, it didn't work, right? The people of Gaza are too strong for that. But it's really, really hard for them, right? Imagine starving every day for 4 months. Imagine, forget that, by the way, because the people of Gaza, generally what I've seen, they're not scared for their own lives. They're not worried about themselves getting sick. They're not worried about them losing an arm. But them seeing their kids starving, them seeing their kids, fall on the street and like the body can't repair the wound because it doesn't have enough nourishment, right? That kills people. Wallahi, that kills people. And that's why like some of the trauma that people are going through is happening is because like they can see themselves in the state, but they can't see their kids in the States. They can't see, their family in the States. So it's really, really tough thing. I hope I didn't interrupt you there.
All right, Matt, you were going to say something?
No, I wasn't. Maybe I just moved around. I apologize. No, go ahead, Akhi.
You're good.
I'm just listening to you. It's disgusting. It's sickening that the world sits idly. And when you talk and you say the things you say, it's I know where this world's going, and I know where a lot of people in this world are going for allowing this stuff to happen. Shame on the Muslim world, shame on the Arab world, shame on the Muslim world, shame on the Arab world. Useless. Used to be the apple of the world's eye, the people that brought medicine into the world, the people that brought math into the world, the people that brought universities into the world, the people that did the first cataract operations in Iraq on the eye, the people that transformed the world are allowing this to happen to their own brothers and sisters.
Here's a paper from the Seattle Times. It shows papers show Israel counted calories to limit food to Gaza during the blockade. So further evidence, it's not just like, pro-Palestinian people. These are major Western media outlets that have reported this strategy by Israel to break the spirit of the people of Gaza. What ultimately they want the entire movement, the entire world to just bend the knee and realize, like, hey, we're more powerful than you, and you cannot have any more hope. There is no hope. That's their mission, to just kill hope. And that's how you do it. You make them feel so miserable, so dejected. And why we have to continuously, you, the listener, or anyone out there with any level of concern, is you just can't lose hope. You have to, because you're letting them win if you do that. That's all they care about. They want you to lose hope. They want you to get interested in the other things that are happening on TV or media and anything else. That's not to say that you can't have a good time at all. We're not saying that all you need to do is just, put your head on the ground and cry. But all you have to keep a balance in things, but also have a strong level of concern. Keep liking things, keep commenting, keep sharing,
Absolutely.
keep anything within your power. If you're going to protest, go to protest. Anything that's happened right now. My kids are in Chicago. All my children are in Chicago right now, and in a protest. And I couldn't join them because of the show today, but we're all doing everything, whatever you can. That's how you fight against something. Everything within your realm of control, you do everything you can. You if you don't have any power in anything, maybe you teach it to your children. You teach the history of Palestine and the struggle, and you keep at it, so that even if it doesn't get solved now, it gets solved in the future, so that you're passing on that torch, that flame, into a young child's heart, young shabab like Walid here, who are carrying his parents' torch. And that's how we win. And it may not happen right away, but it will happen in the future. It's promised to us,
There's something I wanted to bring to someone's attention. Look, there's a clip circulating around of this brother who stands up in University of Chicago, and I think it's the AMA president that was giving a talk, and he started, he was talking about inclusivity in the LGBT community, and then the Muslim brother stands up and he starts yelling and saying, "Shame on you for not including Gaza, or just talking about Gaza enough and what's happening, especially for people in healthcare and all that kind of stuff, and being afraid to talk about it." And then people were saying about this individual in multiple chat groups. I talked to somebody actually personally who showed this to me yesterday, and they're like, "Look at this, man. This is not the way we go about things, because what's the point of yelling at this and then just looking like a fool," or whatever the case is. Look, there's a time and place for everything. What Gaza is actually doing and what's happening in Palestine, it's permeating through every facet of life and making it uncomfortable, so everyone is forced to hear it and talk about it. That's what that brother was doing, right? So please, brothers and sisters, when you see somebody like that, and it's about Gaza specifically, or anything that's happening in the Muslim world, but right now it's about Gaza, whether we like it or not. The whole world is focusing on Gaza. And not enough people have been talking about it, and the people of influence have been silenced. People have been taken off and sent on medical leave or fired because of being pro-Palestinian in the place of freedom of speech. Like, why does Israel get an exception to the rule of why you can't have freedom of speech? Like, which shows you, like, the corruption. You were talking about the ICJ and how much power the international law is actually indebted.
I guess Kanye West was right.
So the thing is that this brother, what he did was when he spoke at the AMA and he spoke and he yelled, I want you guys to look at a different angle. Look at it as if something that may not even be seemingly related, even in those facets of life, the issue of Gaza has permeated through the walls and is forced for people to listen to what's happening to Gaza who would never hear about it originally. And that's what also another thing that Gaza did to us in the world. Again, it permeated through all the walls where people would not be even talking about Gaza. It's not even a place to talk about politics, and it's permeated into there. So everybody's forced to be uncomfortable about it.
It gave a clear explanation. Not only did it give a clear explanation and a picture of what occupation and what the Zionist entity, the powers of the Zionist entity are, but it also showed the world, especially Western countries, especially the Western people, is that, hey, listen, not only are we occupied, but you're occupied also. Your governments are occupied. Your capitals are occupied. Washington, D.C. is occupied territory. When your governors, when your senators, when your congressmen are all the president, their allegiance is not to the United States of America and your Constitution, but their allegiance is to the Zionist entity, where Nancy Pelosi says, even if our capital crumbles, we will still stand by, no, she would rather, or something to the effect that the capital crumbling is less of a thing than Israel, that we have to constantly aid and assist Israel. So it has shown the world, the American people in particular, that your government is occupied. Your government is subservient to the Zionist entity. What prime minister of the world comes and addresses the Congress of the United States of America while the president and others objected to this, and he still was able to come in, and he tells the politicians sitting there in the House and says, you stand with Israel. And as he says that, they all stand up. Watch the video when he says, and you are standing and you will stand with Israel. And literally by him saying stand, they all stand up and do a standing ovation for him while he's talking. So, that's the thing. I suggest, and the brother said earlier, they have money to fly these planes day and night. Of course they have money to fly these planes day and night. It all comes from American taxpayers. They get $15 billion a year. They get 5 over the table and 10 in everything, in subsidies and everything else. Traficante, what was he, Senator Traficante from Cincinnati? I forgot if he was a senator or congressman. He said it best. And he said when someone said they only get $5 billion, he says, no, they get $15 billion. And at $5 billion, that's $15 million a day of American taxpayers. Money given to Israel. So Israel is built, it's the biggest welfare recipient in the world. Everything they have is for free. Everything is given to them. But when you talk about conspiracy, did we ever talk about who Boutros Ghali was?
Yeah, the former UN Secretary
No, but did we talk about it on the show? I don't think we talked
conversation?
about it on the show.
No, we haven't talked about him.
How to show you the corruption, and this is Walid, you can hear this, the corruption, how corrupt that these Zionists have been working day and night. The Epstein of the United States is only one individual of many Epsteins all over the world. And this has to do with all of this. I sat and I heard that they were making this Egyptian the head of the United Nations. I couldn't believe it. What's the world changing? I'm a Palestinian who grew up in Jerusalem. I used to see the United Nations guys roam around in their white Jeeps while the Zionists, the Israelis, were assaulting us and doing all kinds of things to our people, and they never did anything. Not only that, we know they've bombed their areas in southern Lebanon and murdered Palestinians and their own, and they've never done anything. So this corrupt organization, how do they let somebody like Boutros Ghali become the head? Boutros Ghali becomes the head and puts an embargo on the Bosnian Muslims. What? So who is this Boutros Ghali? Boutros Ghali is an Egyptian Copt. He's Copt from
Coptic.
Egypt.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, guess who his wife is? His wife is the sister of the wife of the war criminal Shimon Peres. You see? How does an Egyptian Copt become the head of the United Nations, and his wife, him and Yitzhak, Shimon Peres, who's a war criminal, who was the prime minister of Israel, his wife and Butros Ghali's wife are sisters. They're brother-in-laws. This is, you look at Kofi Annan. Who's his wife? His wife is a European Ashkenazi, probably more unlike a Zionist, because she's Jewish. That's Kofi Annan, right after Butros Ghali. So, I mean, these are corrupt organizations that are useless, that are put in place. The ICJ, what is that? The only reason they've heard anything and they even entertained it was because of all the protests around the world and the pressure coming down from many different people from all over the world at what they were seeing from the actions of the Zionist entity against the people of Gaza, the innocent people of Gaza.
I didn't know that about Butros Ghali. That's crazy.
His Butros Ghali's wife is Shimon Peres's wife's sister. She's a Zionist Jew. Or an Israeli, or whatever you want to call it. Because obviously we don't associate Judaism with Zionism. They're two different things. We have obviously many of our Jewish brothers and sisters who support us, and we support them, and they don't support the state of Israel because actually it's an abomination when it comes to the Jewish faith. So we are specifically talking, when we talk Israel, we talk Zionists. We don't talk
Thank
Judaism
you for that,
or Jews.
Alhamdulillah. So, Walid. Yes, go ahead.
No, I'm glad that I don't have to watch what I say or worry of getting in trouble anymore, because alhamdulillah, that cat's out of the bag.
No, if you have Ahmad ad-Din on the podcast, bro, you don't got to worry about nothing, bro. But so how many days were you able to be in Gaza altogether?
In which hospital, sorry?
In Gaza, just altogether.
Right. So I think it was 7 or 8 days.
Okay, so
yeah.
When your last few days after, you said it was Talat Sultan or the Sultan
Talat
Hospital?
Sultan, yeah.
Yeah. So after that hospital, where do you head to?
Right. So, the last few days, we're staying in that hospital. I mean, we're sleeping in that hospital, right?
Okay.
In the day, sometimes we'd spend our days working there. Sometimes we'd go to another clinic outside a refugee center, and a few times went to the European hospital. We went to the Indonesian hospital as well, which, with everything going on, there's you can say there's different levels of approach for how everything is going, right? Where people are going to have different ideas now to do things, right? There's going to be ikhtilaf in that. One reason why I like the Indonesian hospital is it's the only place I found in Gaza which looked like a hospital. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. And wallahi, made me very, very happy to see. But just because, like, they're very strict in who they let in, right? They don't serve as a refugee center. They don't let in the patient's family to live in the hospital while they wait. And it's very, very harsh requirements. But alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, because of that, they're able to get through a lot of patients. One thing I want to mention as well that Brother Ahmad was reminding me about, that I've heard from someone just the other day of in Gaza and he was primarily talking. He was primarily saying this about Muslim leaders, right? Some of the people Brother Ahmad was mentioning earlier, and he was saying that we're going to be witnesses against you on Yawm al-Qiyam, and he's saying this like with no filter, that our children are going to be witnesses against you on Yawm al-Qiyam. And wallahi, still sometimes when I close my eyes, I remember this one case of we saw cases a lot worse than this, by the way, and a lot of the cases I don't want to mention right now, partly because it's very hard for me to recount it, and partly because it's a lot of just trauma dropping, right, trauma dumping. But there was this one girl. It was the last case we saw that day, and I just could not hold on, right? I just broke into tears and sobbed, because we came in the room and there's this 7-year-old girl, and she's covered in burns from head to toe because of a bombing just yesterday. And I just remember her eyes, Ya Rabbi, because she can't speak anymore. Like, she can't walk in her condition right now. And her eyes were staring at me as we entered the room. And wallahi, I couldn't handle the amount of rage that was flowing through me at that moment. Like, wallahi, me myself, I don't know how I'm going to stand in front of that girl on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Like, I don't know. I don't. I just want to. I just wonder, like, you know, will she forgive me? Right? Will she forgive me for me not doing anything to help her? Right? And then, Ya Rabbi, this is the thing as well that like we really need to wake up as an ummah. There's such horrible stuff going on, right? And these people, they don't ask for this, right? Because the people of Gaza are their karam, right? They say that we're self-sufficient, right? We'll handle ourselves. We're hasbunallah wa ni'mal. Okay, they don't ask anything from the ummah. But as someone who's from outside of Gaza, like, wallahi, this is like these are our brothers and sisters. This is your daughters, that are getting, Ya Rabbi, brutal things happening to them on a daily basis. I've seen kids her age, right after her, with a sniper shot through the head. A sniper bullet through the head, and the kid can't walk, the kid can't talk, the kid likely will not survive the next day. Um, and thus, wallahi, it's such horrible stuff. But it made me think, it made me really deeply think, with everything that I've done up until now, how will I have any excuse? Right? And by the way, the people of Gaza know that the Nabi ﷺ loves the people of Shem, and he loves the people of Gaza. Right? And they make dua when they're making salawat upon the Nabi, they make dua that Allahumma balligh al-Nabi, like, Ya Rabbi, inform the Prophet of what we're going through. He loved our people, so inform him of what's happening to us right now. Like, I don't know how, with everything I did, and with everything I've done up until right now, right? I'm still terrified of how on Yawm al-Qiyamah I can look the Nabi in the eyes and say that I knew about stuff like this that was happening, and this is what little I did. This is what little hasanat I came with, and this is what little work that I came with to do for them, to get them out of the situation, right? Like wallahi, at this point, like, protests aren't enough, right? Social media isn't enough. Like, this is this is a time to physically stop those bombs from dropping, right? All of those hundreds of billions of dollars put into making sure that there are planes going through 24/7.
This is
like,
a,
Allahu A'lam how to do that. Sorry?
this is a time for those coward Arab leaders to move. Even if one of them moved, what's the use in living? What's the use in surviving? What's the use in a nation? What's the use in anything when your brothers and sisters are going through that? What's the use in you having your weapons? That Gaddafi, the nut job, who's gone now, I don't like to really say too much about people who have passed. He said one thing at a summit, Arab summit. He says, why don't you take your tanks, your planes, and melt them down and make cooking pots out of them? That's all they're useless. This is the time, but those are cowards. Those are despicable individuals whom my hatred is there for them more even than the Zionist entity. And I'm going to say this to you.
Sorry.
Somebody said something? Yeah. And this is, I'm going to say this to the Muslims. To you Jordanians, and to you Syrians, and to you Iraqis, and to you Saudis, and to you Lebanese. Stop being stupid and get rid of your nationalism and unite, because everything that happens to the Palestinians has happened to you also. Beirut was bombed day and night in 1982 until Ronald Reagan stopped Menachem Begin through a telephone call, where a BBC correspondent said when the fighting reaches its fiercest, Beirut looks like hell on earth. They bombed it day and night to try to eradicate the PLO at the time, and they failed. And they're trying to eradicate another group within the Palestinian people, and it's going to fail. When are you Muslims going to act according to the deen of Allah, according to Rasulullah's teachings, and become one Muslim nation as you were? The Kashmiris are suffering. Almost everywhere you go, every Muslim nation, they're suffering. If not, they're poor. The Jordanians are living in debt. They're all on credit card debt, something we don't even indulge in. They work, and the only people that get rich and richer are those families, those tyrannical families. What, your blood is better than Palestinian blood? Is it that you think that the Palestinian issue doesn't belong to you when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about Masjid al-Aqsa in the Quran, and it's the third most holiest masjid for the whole Muslim world? You think it doesn't pertain to you? You don't think you're having the problems you're having because you've abandoned your brothers and sisters in Palestine long before October 7th, long before the bombings that happened after October 7th. Your nationalism, your taunting of the Palestinian people and any other people who are Muslim who become refugees by calling them Ya Laji'in, or you refugees.
Yeah, I heard that in Egypt too.
Yeah, they did that to my aunt. My aunt was studying in Egypt in the late 60s, early, so she passed away.
Yeah.
She come home crying and tell the family. I didn't understand. I was a baby, but my mom would tell me that the Egyptian students would taunt her and say, "Ya laj'a," or "you refugee," and they did the same thing in Lebanon, and they did the same
It
thing in
happens in the
Syria.
airports too.
Huh?
One of my friends, it happens in the airports. He came from Michigan.
Yeah.
He was studying Arabic in Egypt.
Yes.
And they gave him such a hard time.
Yeah.
And then they were like laughing and joking. They were tossing his stuff out. He's coming as a student.
Yeah.
And they're tossing his stuff out because he came to learn Fusha Arabic, you know. And he had all these aspirations, but his entrance into Egypt, they started throwing his books out, his colognes and all, even though it met all the standards. And then they called him Laji. And not only that, they said to him, it's because of your people that Egypt is backwards. Right? So they actually have like the sector of Egyptians, I'm just saying the Muslim world,
Yes.
where they've been brainwashed
Yes.
by their leaders to think, oh, we're in this situation because of Palestine, while their leaders reap all the benefits of monetary
Yes.
benefits that the
know
world gives them.
You know how many of them have said in the past, if we could just get rid of the Palestinians
I've heard it.
and just deal with the Israelis, there would be no problems. That's how ridiculous they are. That's how do you get rid of the Palestinians and deal with the Israelis when the Israelis are talking about demolishing Masjid al-Aqsa? How do you deal with
such a
something
trick.
like that? But
It's such a
these are a
satanic
people.
trick.
Listen. Jahiliyyah was here and Islam came. Islam came and Jahiliyyah is back. And Muslims have adopted many Jahiliyyah ways. This is why we love the expensive cars and we love the name brand clothing and we don't wear this and we don't wear that, because we are back into Jahiliyyah. That's what we like, Jahiliyyah. Nationalism and tribalism. It's gotten even worse than country to country. Even within Palestine, one small village is competing with another village. You look at their cars when they drive past. Birawi wa muftakhir. I am from Al Bira and I am proud. They only marry within their own villages. You know? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, and His beloved Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, He says, you want to look, the leaders are a reflection of the people. Basically. You get what you are. You get tyrants because what Muslim follows you will not believe, you are not a believer, you do not believe until you love for your brother what you love for yourself? Do we really? Do we? But we've kicked all that stuff to the side. This is the difference between young brothers like Walid, who's growing up and learning about the Sunnah and about different things within Islam, and the reverts who are not just taking 5 prayers a day, fast Ramadan, go to Hajj and spin around in circles and come back with miswak and with utar and this other stuff. That Islam is much bigger than that. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says one drop of blood shed unjustly from a Muslim is more, it's basically is as if you're more sacred than the Kaaba, or as dismantling the Kaaba brick by brick. Sorry I go on a monologue like that, brother, but I apologize.
I need to hear it.
Yeah, but you did say something that I don't want to miss. I'd like to always come out on a positive note with all this stuff, because I do believe in Islam and what Allah and His Messenger has said, and that we will be victorious no matter who says what. And even if it doesn't happen in my time, I am comfortable and I am happy. And when my time comes and Allah takes me, I know when I lay in that grave that I know before I lay in there that eventually the Muslims are going to be victorious and Islam is going to be victorious, inshallah. Ameen. Muhammad. But I do want to hear, you said something that caught my ear. And you said some positive things. You want to talk about positive things you've seen, and I'd like to hear about that also. We've heard about the bad stuff. We know about the bad stuff. But as Muslims, we also like to acknowledge the positive things.
Yeah. Um, right before the positive things. Oh, I'm sorry, but so the stuff you're mentioning, uh, I was thinking while I was there, like that. Saraha, this should be like a wake up call for the ummah, right? Where that's if this is how uh like paraplegic we are right now, and if we don't have institutions, okay, sure, tamam, the Muslim leaders, they're the Muslim leaders, right? But if we don't have the institutions established that we can do anything right now, what's there to stop another Gaza from happening?
Hmm.
And Saraha, even forget another Gaza. What's happening right now should wake people up, right? That um I see, you see so many young people with energy, right? And oftentimes it's a trap, right? That a lot of when these young people first enter the deen, right? Shaitan tempts them, right? And Shaitan brings them into arguing with other Muslims, all this kind of stuff. Wallahi, I think if a lot of these people like saw just a quarter of the just a tenth of the people I saw, so, some stuff which, wallahi, like human eyes should never have had to see that,
Hmm.
right? Where like this woman, Ya Rabbi, I still remember the smile on her face. This woman, she's lost her eye, she's lost her arm, she's lost both of her legs, and she's lost all of her children.
Subhanallah.
Yeah, I mean the blame on that doesn't just fall upon the Jews,
No,
right?
it
The Muslim
doesn't.
Ummah are supposed to be one
The
body. The blame on
Zionist,
that falls.
the Zionist, brother. Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, because we don't. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, Zionists. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Wallahi, slip the tongue.
that's okay.
I'm getting in trouble anyway, though. No, so Zionists,
No,
yes.
Zionist.
Right. The blame does not only fall upon these leaders, right? If we don't have the institutions now, make them. Right?
Exactly.
Get in touch with people who are knowledgeable in these fields. Get in touch with political activists. Get in touch with, people who are knowledgeable in these faculties, in government, in siyasa, in politics. If any time we're not going to wake up after this, if we're not woken up by this, I don't think we're going to be waking up after this. Sarah, if none of your government, none of your countries can do anything, and none of your countries can drop a bottle of water on the people of Gaza, like, fi rijala, like, is there any like manliness in your people? Is there any like thing to be proud about, of your country after this? Ya Rabbi, sorry for the rant.
No, man,
No,
you
you're
say what you
good.
got to say,
You're
brother.
good.
It's beautiful coming
Yeah,
from you,
it's
man, because
good.
you've been very patient. You try to keep it very, like you said, non-emotional dump, and I respect that a
Yeah.
lot about you because you just want to talk about the issue. Because if you wanted to, and I see why you're doing that now, if you wanted to, you can go in detail what case by case of what you guys saw in the hospital, but you're not going to do that. Number one, because people can see that, and number two, you want to make it more about activity, action, more of an awakening, because people.
That's
can
such an
find
important point, Sheikh, because many of the not many, but there's a few Instagram influencers out there. Everything is just doom and gloom,
Yeah.
blaming people. Like, people are doing the best they can,
Exactly.
especially the people who are following them, liking their posts, commenting. Those people are doing, like, shaming them. You're not doing anything. You're just making them disheartened, and you're pushing them away, because eventually people will be like, you know what, I can't do anything for these people. I need to live my life, and they'll go off and get distracted with. There's plenty of distractions in this world. This is a world just completely filled with distractions. This is one of those things that I just remember when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed the angels how Jannah, and he said, this is what's ready for my believers. And they say, oh, well, Allah, everyone's gonna go over to this, and then he showed what's covering that path, and all the distractions and the entertainment and all the sins that are covering that path. And it's like, oh yeah, Allah, we fear that no one's going to be able to get there. So this is the world we're living in, where there's so many avenues just to forget about Gaza, and you can't as an influencer just make people feel like, oh, you know what, whatever you're doing is not enough. You keep encouraging each other. I'm getting inspired by my young children, my niece, everyone is inspiring me. Just keep going, keep pushing each other. Lock arms and move together, because those people have no one. And if you get distracted, then there's no hope. I mean, there's no hope, at least for this generation. Allah has already guaranteed that this land is ours, but there's no hope for us. How are we going to stand in front of Allah and answer that, hey, you know what, I thought the Muslim rulers would do something, and
Those-
they
yeah.
didn't do anything.
Yeah, and those are not Muslim leaders at all. They have nothing to do with Islam. Islam has nothing to do with them. I will say this to you, wallahi, and by Allah, if the Muslims would get right, Israel would cease to exist tomorrow. It's just, is there a possibility that the Muslims can get right overnight? No, because there's a lot of filth within us. And it's almost as if when Bani Israel roamed through the Sinai for 40 years, and that purpose was for 40 years was to change the old bad ones for good new ones. And it took a few generations to get to the right ones. And that's what's going to happen here. Inshallah, I do on my TikTok, I constantly thank people who are doing stuff for this issue.
Yeah, man.
Even if you push share on a post that comes from Gaza that shows the atrocities being committed against the people of Gaza, you have just done a great job. If you've never posted one or never post one after, you have done a great job, and we can't take away from it. And even now you have seen, and I'm going to talk to the Palestinians a little bit too. The Palestinian people, I'm going to say this to
You
you.
mean the Palestinians in the West or the Palestinians?
diaspora?
Palestinian people, period. Be careful. Be careful in not to overpraise yourself for what you're doing and your strength. And before you praise yourself, you better say and attribute, and within your mind and your heart, know that you're unable to do this without Allah. And to say Alhamdulillah, and our strength comes from Allah. And we're not great because we're Palestinian people. That we are great because we have, especially those who have been fighting and have fought, we have a religion for us Muslims. And obviously the Palestinian Christians are almost intertwined. So we have some of the same strength that comes together. And but speaking to the Palestinian Muslims, because of our of Muslim teachings, be careful. Illahumma inni a'udhu bika an ashriku bika wa ana a'lam wastaghfiruka lamma la a'lam. Because you can almost start to commit shirk if you think that you're doing all this by yourself because you're simply a Palestinian, or that you were born to a Palestinian family, or that you were born in Jerusalem, or you were born in Gaza, or you were born anywhere else. This is just a warning from a simple Muslim to other Muslims. And for the people here in the United States, I suggest to you that you start to become really, I'm not talking about your beards and your kufiyas, and I'm not talking about your Islamic wear and Islamic talk. I'm trying to tell you something, and you better get right with this. Start smiling at people. Start undoing some of the stuff that you do. You know what you do when you go purchase your groceries, what you're using to purchase your groceries. You have no right having that. I'm not going to put you out there like that, but you know what I'm talking about. This is against Islam. This is thievery. Start acting correctly and start doing the right thing. Start loving each other as Muslims. You do not believe until you love for your brother what you love for yourself. Stop being arrogant. Stop building mansions and driving $200,000 cars and thinking that's what makes you. There was a people that did that in this nation. They were misguided. They didn't have food to eat sometimes, but they dressed some of the best clothes and they drove some of the best cars. Wake up.
All right,
Walid,
any closing
The stage
thoughts?
is all yours.
Any closing thoughts, Walid?
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to make the whole podcast so doom and gloomy, but there is a lot.
No, it's not.
There's a lot
I do
of very
want to
helpful
say,
stuff.
I do want to say this as a closing, and I'll close with this. Walid, wallahi, what you gave us in this interview has been clear and precise, and has been uplifting, and I have not seen any discussion or talk given by anyone about the Gaza situation as you gave it.
Allahu Akbar.
And I'm on TikTok
There's
every
some
single
more.
day, 24 hours a day. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Go ahead, Akhi. I just wanted to let you. I don't want you
No, no, you're
to shortcut yourself and
Habibi.
shortchange yourself.
No, but there's a lot of important stuff, right? All of the positive stuff, all of the heart lifting stuff, all of what I saw. Like, صراحة, this feels funny to say, but like, wallahi, going to Gaza increased my will to live, increased my resolve in being in this world.
Alhamdulillah.
Like, it feels a very funny thing to say, but wallahi, seeing the iman of those people, seeing the resolve of those people. Um, I didn't expect that to happen. Wallahi, I didn't. But it's something so incredibly powerful that how unshaken, and forget unshaken, how strengthened the iman of those people are, right? That everything that's happened has only strengthened their faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where they're seeking help and they know now they only have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to rely on, right? If the world has left them, if the world's abandoned them, right? Literally, um, I've had so many conversations with people about seeking literally healing and shifa through the Quran, where literally these people don't have like medicine to treat very serious wounds they're going through. And they were saying Surah Al-Fatiha and they were saying Surah Yasin and it's cured.
Allah.
Like this is the meaning of tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? This is the sabr. And the thing is the mindset of all of them as well to of what's going on. Right? Hatta even the children, right? Every single person I've met there is proud of being from Gaza, and the reason is that they know this is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Exactly.
The reason is not because they think the blood of Gaza is so great.
Exactly.
They think that we're the people who Allah chose to test this way.
Exactly.
And our pride comes from that.
Exactly.
And our honor comes from that.
Exactly.
Right?
The hadith,
Like-
the hadith of Asqalan, the hadith of the people of Asqalan.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You don't know how many times I've heard people say Ard Ribat in Gaza.
Exactly.
Everyone has this hadith memorized.
Yes.
Everyone has memorized the hadith of Ahl al-Sham and of Gaza and of Asqalan. And how many times I've heard people say this.
And
that I've been in the garden
Asqalan is a
and I'm
part
making
of Gaza.
Yeah, it used to be called Ghazat
Yeah,
Asqalan.
yeah.
The
Exactly.
Ribat, which he's referring to, is the frontier of the Muslim mujahideen, basically the people who are going to be holding down Islam through Asqalan.
Yeah. Did you?
Ribat means garrison, right?
Frontier.
The frontier.
Yeah.
The
The
front
frontier
lines.
of your front lines, yeah.
Did you hear some of the stories from the? I saw a thing where a brother was talking about what the mujahideen were saying as they fought, and they said there was fighting going on that they were not even a part of. It's as if Allah sent angels down
Allahu
to
Akbar,
fight
yeah.
with them and do things that they didn't do and have not done. And we've heard some of the same stuff in Afghanistan also, and other places. But I actually reposted a video from a brother who was talking out of Gaza about this particular stuff. And go ahead, brother. I don't want to cut you off.
No, you're good. Some of that's very profound as well. I think I felt a lot of this once I left Gaza, that it did feel like there's a certain sakina in the air somehow. And it's so hard to describe.
Because it's the most difficult
just-
place in the world to live right now, but you feel a sakina.
Yes.
Allahu Akbar.
Exactly. Right? Like, for example, when I expected that I would be hit, like, mentally a lot more. Right? For example, when I was working in the Turkey earthquakes, right? The first day, just the days while I was there, it was mentally very difficult for me because you're seeing a lot of very difficult stuff, right? But here, none of the stuff actually hit me until I had left the borders, right? There's a sakina there. Somehow just walking on the street and it's so hectic and there are bomb buildings around you and you can hear bombers. But wallahi, it's something about that feels out of this world, right? The sakina that somehow exists with those people. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I have no doubt, has sent angels, has sent malaika to put sakina in those people, right? But Ya Rabbi, the amount of people I've heard who have talked about this and I've mentioned, because I don't know what to say to them. I'm saying, this is a tarfiya, this is, a raising of your ranks, right? And the people reply to me, yeah, we know, we're in the Ard Ribat, we're in this land that was mentioned in the hadith. Like, we're the people of those lands, we're stepping up to the challenge. We're not cowering away from the challenge, right? But no, it's crazy. I could smell sometime, and I'm not, Allahu A'lam if this is from Shuhada or not, but, I could assume. Sometimes in the streets, I'd smell misk. Right, I smell perfume on the streets.
Yes.
Allahu Akbar.
Yes.
And right now, the streets are very filthy. The streets are not clean streets. There are almost 2 million people living here, and the roads are not working, and people don't have a place to go to, like all that kind of stuff. But I'm thinking, all the shops are closed. Like, I'm alone right here. Who am I smelling misk from? Right, when I'm going by the
Allahu
hospital.
Akbar.
And it should
Wow.
with all the death and destruction smell horrible.
Yeah, you're right.
It smells
Exactly.
but it doesn't. But look at this.
Yeah.
Did you see? I don't know if you've seen the video of initially when they were first those first Zionists were killed. There was a trailer, a freezer, where they stuffed the bodies, and the guy went in to show somebody in a freezer. The smell was so horrible he was gagging. Meat doesn't rot in freezers. How does it smell so bad that the guy couldn't even breathe in the freezer? There's probably about 8-10 bodies in there in bags, body bags.
Yep.
And they smelled so bad in their freezer. He was like, screaming and you could see the coldness coming out of the freezer, so it was freezing.
Yeah.
But that's the difference between our martyrs and their fatayas.
Like Señor Solis said, Uhud. Yes, sir.
These are
No,
these are.
it's-
Go ahead, Walid.
Go ahead, Walid.
No, it's okay. The streets as well, there's something about, and I wish, inshallah ta'ala, I'm hoping to come back to Gaza very soon in this war, and inshallah after this war as well. But something hit me about the streets of Gaza that was different from anyone else I've seen. The walls are never empty, right? The building, like in Alhamdulillah in Rafah, most of the city is still standing, right? Because it's where everyone's been shoved to. It's Gaza and Khan Yunis, there's not too much of the cities remaining. But even what I just noticed in Rafah, there's no walls that are empty, right? Always there's written hadith or Salli ala Nabi, right? Or verses of the Quran or stuff like that. None of the walls of Gaza are empty, right? And it's still people in that situation writing stuff to strengthen themselves, to strengthen the community,
Wow.
right? And subhanAllah, one of the times I'm getting in trouble for this as well, but I snuck away to a masjid. When I say snuck away, of course, UN guidelines, our organization guidelines, we should not be leaving the centers. And another thing about the masajid, I guess that's really sad right now, but that a lot of people there don't go to the masjid anymore just because the masajid, the first places that are bombed.
Exactly.
So if you're going to a masjid in Gaza, there's a serious risk to your life. Because when the bombings start in various cities, the first places are always, and the people know this. This is what the people are telling me, right? That no, pray in your homes, pray in the hospitals, because the masjid is going to get bombed first.
Yes.
But when I did go there, Ya Rabbi, just in Salat al-Maghrib and Salat al-Isha, wallahi, the passion. And how do you see passion? You're in the Jama'ah, you're in the Saf, right? I don't know how to explain it, but you could feel an electricity in the air, right? You could feel something so incredible of those people praying Salah and the Dua Qanut and the passion of the Dua Qanut in their Salah, right? And you can really feel everyone here has an individual connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? All the people have such a deep love of the Nabi alayhi salam as well, right? And I mentioned this, I think, a little while ago, but with their salawat, they mention, Ya Allah, inform the Nabi of our problems, right? And they're connecting everything that's going on with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and with the Nabi alayhi salam, right? And the way that they're not blaming Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're not blaming the Muslims either, they're not blaming the Ummah for anything that's going on, right? But they're seeing that everything that's going on, they're seeing it as it's a test to them, right? It's a fitna to them. This is because of where we live, because we're in there was al-ribat, this is the kind of stuff we have to deal with, and so they're stepping up to the challenge, right? There's one dua that hit me so hard, right? And especially one of the reasons why it hit me so hard was because, you know, where I live, and I've already talked, I've talked a lot, I won't go into that, but like, you know, people are afraid of losing their jobs, people are afraid of losing scholarships and all that kind of stuff to talk about Palestine, because a lot of people have, right? Lost, you know, a lot of stuff. There was a dua from the people of Gaza that I heard, and a lot of people say this, but the first time I heard it was from like a 9-year-old kid, subhanAllah, was Allahumma khudh min dama'ina hatta tarda. That, oh Allah, take from our blood until you are pleased.
Wow.
This is the perspective of the people of Gaza, right?
Wow. Allahu
Like,
Akbar.
we're afraid of, like, you know, losing this stuff. They're willingly sacrificing their lives, right? And they're hoping that hatta tarda, ya Allah, until you are pleased, right? Take from us until you are pleased.
Wow.
Like, the whole mindset is that everything going on and their patience for what's going on is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So wallahi, I feel like some of the stuff that they're going through, all these months of stuff, like, it would drive normal people insane, right? Like, the way that they still give such a weight to adab, to akhlaq, right? To avoiding ayib, right? To being very respectful people, right? Even like in what we're there, everyone's trying to share with us. Wallahi, they have nothing, right?
Wow.
They have they managed to get a packet of rice from the, I forget, World Food Program, I think, right? And the packet of rice for that day, they're trying to make sure that we eat more of it than them because we're their guests.
But they know that you
Right?
guys are coming from wealthier places, and they're still
Exactly.
Allahu Akbar.
They-
You guys are
they're
the aid
feeding us
workers.
before their children. Well, exactly.
Allahu
And
Akbar.
especially because they thought, okay, you're Muslim and you're coming here to help us. You guys, we're feeding you first, like the guest culture, right? And subhanallah, just even walking on the street, right? The amount of still, I mean, it's not like other disaster zones I've worked in, right? People have that intrinsic sense of akhlaq, right? Honestly, the scenes on the street were like, subways back home in my where I'm from are weirder than that. Subways in Toronto are weirder than that and like more filthy than that, right? But the people have such an ingrained sense of who they are and of their adab towards the creation, adab towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that it was really, really crazy. Like, because honestly, I was thinking, okay, if I was starving for as long as these people have been starving for 4 months, and because again, everyone has had so many members of their family die, right? Have had their cousins and all that kind of stuff. I wouldn't be acting so. I don't know how I'd be acting, right? So kind of like kids mature so quickly, and I had one person I was very, very close with. No, I don't think I should mention his name, but he was in ninth grade, right? And we were working with him because he was the son of okay, we were working with him, right? He was going with us when you're going on drives to from one place to another, right? I'm not mentioning too much just of security reasons for him right now where he is. Um, this kid's in grade 9. Honestly, he's more mature than most people I see at university, right? The amount of maturity that something like that instills in you, and I eventually started talking, right? I eventually got close with this kid, and we're just talking, and he's talking about his friends, right, before the war and what they used to do, and playing soccer and all that kind of stuff. And he's showing me images of someone. I mean, who's that? That's Ibrahim. And I'm like, oh, okay, is he with you right now, Rafah? And he mentioned, like, no, he was murdered a month ago. And wallahi, that was like, this kid's in ninth grade. This kid's so young, and this kid's sitting next to me, and he's showing me things on his phone, which is very close to his heart, right? Pictures of his family, and I'm thinking, like, this kid just had his best friend die, right? This kid has had, and it wasn't the only one. I think a dozen of his friends have died in this war, right? His father is stuck in North Gaza. They don't know if he's going to live or not,
Allah.
right? And still, Ya Rabbi, and this kid's just taking it like a champ. He's praying salah with me. He's doing whatever work needs to be done. He's helping us distribute food, and like, I'm like, how are you not breaking down? Like, like, what are you made of, right? But no, it's that's how those people are stepping up to it. That's, for one, I guess, the kind of sakina that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has instilled in their hearts, right? Ya Rabbi, it's crazy. Like, Ya Allah, we were scared there. We were, I think some of us are very traumatized after what we saw, right? Where, like, all the things around bombings, right? Like, I still can't get used to the sound of planes and all that kind of stuff, right? This kid for 4 months, he's been hearing constant bombings. He's had his house bombed, right? He's had to migrate from North Gaza to South Gaza, and like, still, he's a functioning human being. He's smiling, he's laughing, and wallahi, it's such a huge testament to the resilience of these people.
SubhanAllah, man.
And it's something so amazing.
In the meantime, we have the Israeli terrorist force going through Gaza, robbing homes after the people leave. They robbed the main bank there and took $50 billion in money from the bank, from the Gaza bank. And they're stealing little kids' bikes and engagement rings and things like that. This is the what did he call them? Satan Yahoo. He said they were the most moral army in the world. This is
They're the most moral arm.
Right when you think they
that's what Satan Yahoo said.
Yeah.
The reason I'm laughing, I'm not laughing because it's funny. It's the level of deception that is so accepted. Like, how is it that the world can see? How is it that the world can see that this level of deception and still believe it? And I'll tell you why I'm saying that. I was recently watching Piers Morgan. I was watching a whole bunch of interviews. The narrative on the pro-Israeli people has changed. Pro-Zionists have changed to the level of, well, if it wasn't for Hamas, they're all blaming everything on Hamas. Well, Hamas just has to give up the hostages. It's because so they've gotten past the point where the innocent people thing, the way to get around the innocent people thing, instead of addressing it and be like, you know what, there's a genocide happening,
Yeah.
right? And even Piers Morgan, that Mal'oon, he says, a possibility of a genocide. And we know why he has to say that, working for Matt Murdock, pro-Zionist and all that kind of stuff. But the narrative is no longer, let's talk about the genocide is happening to women and children. It's, oh, well, yeah, we feel really bad about that, but it's because of Hamas. So if Hamas didn't do all of this, it's all their fault.
Yeah.
So doubling down, what's actually happening now is, because the war has been going on for longer than expected and it needs to continue, we have to bring a new level of evil to Hamas, a new level to rejuvenate the people that are getting burnt out by their taxpayer money and their humanity going into this, even though they once didn't agree with the Palestinian cause or whatever the case is. So, it's all because of all the, you know what, guys? Look how treacherous and how evil this is. They just have to give up a few hundred hostages and the war is over.
Yeah.
They just have to, Hamas started all of this.
They need to surrender.
Yeah, they need to surrender and all this. So they have the audacity to blame the Palestinian people for all of this just by using Hamas, right? Which tells you how evil. When Allah talks about Hizb Shaitan, when he talks about Hizbullah, and I'm not talking about the political group, I'm talking about the people who are with Allah. The group who loves Allah and Allah loves them. And then there's a group who loves Shaitan, the Hizb Shaitan, and the people who love Shaitan and Shaitan loves them. It's if you were to see the level of hatred that they have for the people of Allah, it's a miracle on its own. Allah gives and shows people miracle, and the people of Allah's party, the people of Allah's group, see the miracles. Like he's talking about smelling misk. We're talking about the stories of the angels, and we see those things. We understand those things. But the people who Allah sealed their hearts, and the people of Shaitan, they see the miraculousness in this hate and this disdain towards Allah and the people of Allah. Like, you tell me, somebody who actually is a sincere individual, and all this murdering that's happening, and you smell the stench of the Zionist army, and you just go and you smell the smell of misk. If you have an open heart, you tell me, would you be like, you know what, dude, these people are right. We're wrong the whole time.
Or
If
at least say, hey, something's wrong with this picture.
Exactly. But that's, if your heart is sincere, they keep doubling down.
Yeah,
they know this stuff is happening, and they continue and they continue and they continue, right? Which tells you that there's sane people, that they're sincere, they want good to happen, and then there's this level of evil that even the shayateen are ashamed of doing.
A big level.
Right? And that's a level that I see the Zionists at.
Yes.
I want you guys to see this guy Shmuley
This guy's such an
on Piers
embarrassment.
Morgan.
It's in the business, which is not surprising.
Oh, that nut job.
Well, I'm not sure what was the purpose to inviting either me or Mr. Shmuley to this program, because obviously we are on two entirely different wavelengths. Mr. Shmuley is in the business, which is not surprising, of character assassination. He's in the business of libel. That's his job, because where he have to confront the facts, he would be in a very difficult situation. So let me make one clarification. None of my remarks bear on my personal opinions. I simply am repeating what the documentary record shows. Now, according to Mr. Shmuley, I am a liar because, according to Mr. Shmuley, the International Court of Justice explicitly concluded that Israel was not committing a genocide. Now, I would say that Mr. Shmuley is suffering from what I would call a Judeo-dementia, because there is no possibility on earth that any rational human being could have read the opinion or the ruling rendered by the International Court of Justice after the South Africa application and after the oral proceedings. There's no possibility on earth that any rational person can conclude that the International Court of Justice ruled that Israel was not committing a genocide. So we now have two difficulties. Number one, Mr. Shmuley seems to think his purpose to being on the program is to personally attack me, the Latin term ad hominem attacks. Number two, Rabbi Shmuley seems incapable of processing very basic facts. If Mr. Shmuley believes that the International Court of Justice ruled explicitly that Israel was not committing genocide, if that's what he truly believes, then I would say he's suffering from some form of Judeo-dementia.
Very well said.
Norman Finkelstein, just an amazing
individual.
amazing
Allahumma
individual.
hdihi al-Islam, man. Allah give him Islam.
Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
I showed this because I want people to understand
I'm
how
glad you showed it.
these people are unraveling themselves. They're showing to the world what kind of buffoons they are, and how they've completely have no arguments. So what they do is they go after you. They try to shut you up. They try to accuse you of anti-Semitism. They try to divert the topic. Right? They do everything but address the actual concern and claims. So what Finkelstein is saying, and what people like Shmuley are exposing to the world, is that these people have no arguments. They have whenever they want to say something, they blame Hamas, and Hamas has become a code word for the Palestinians in itself. Anytime they want to say something that is advocating killing people, all you have to do is stick Hamas in there,
Yep.
and that's all they have to say. That guy, that degenerate Kid Rock, was on Joe Rogan or something recently, and he was advocating 20 to 30,000 Palestinians should be killed daily until.
I was gonna watch it. I didn't watch
Which
it.
Kid
Yes.
Rock? The
This
singer
guy, that
Kid
singer, that rapper, you remember, wasn't he? He's not a rapper.
Singer.
He's like a singer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The white kid.
Yeah, the white
Yeah.
guy from Detroit.
Kid
Isn't he from
Rock.
Detroit?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
so. What a piece of.
Garbage. Yeah.
You know, the thing about it is, Hamas. Well, you know, what about before 1987? There's a whole slew of years and a whole slew of atrocities and a whole slew of occupation and a whole slew of imprisonment and a whole slew of exiling. They didn't come into existence till 1987. And you really didn't start hearing stuff till years later about them, when they started to pull themselves and strengthen themselves. So what about all those years?
You know, one thing that really, really came to the surface, I was thinking about this the other day, that what people are seeing of this narrative, this false narrative unraveling from the Zionists, Americans were starting to think, and now they believe, that this is the narrative that we've been supporting with all of our support, is these people. So what is up with America? You know, we have this thing of cancel culture. If someone's associated with somebody, how is it now that Americans are going to cancel their own America because of their association with the genocidal regime? Americans have something really, really difficult to deal with now.
Exactly.
That we're so used to canceling people who say,
Inshallah, they all wake up.
no, inshallah they do. But the difficult thing that we have to come to grips with now is, it's America that's taking the hit because they've supported them all along, and all these other countries, and still do. So the indictment is going to be against America, and America definitely has to prepare for that. We have to prepare for that.
Yes.
Like, what are we going to do when the whole world is going to turn on America, and America is going to be in an extremely difficult situation because nobody's going to trust it anymore. When the world moves to a new power and America is losing its popularity, like, what's America going to do, right? And what's because America thought that it was going to last forever. It's so young still.
Yeah.
And Israel has been going on a rampage thinking that Big Brother is going to be supporting them, to the point where Israel is completely gone rogue, and America doesn't know how to reel it back in from the fishing line, and the fishing line is cut now, and everything Israel does is an extension by it is America. America's acting in Israel now. because it's Israel is an extension. So the difficult situation that we actually have to think about and understand is that because we were born and raised in America, or we have American citizenship, and we thought that made us powerful, that's not going to last for too much longer. And I'm saying this sincerely to my brothers and sisters. When I used to travel overseas, the arrogance that used to come from brothers and sisters because they were from America was astounding how they used to treat other people. Bro.
You mean Muslim?
Muslims?
Wow.
Because they had a blue passport.
Wow.
Other Muslim countries. I'm talking about every Muslim country I went to.
Yeah.
And they used to think that they were greater.
Kind of gives you an idea why the people, the elitists in our societies back home, the governments act the way they do. If this guy just behaves this way,
I'm so glad you articulate, because I wouldn't articulate it that well.
Yeah.
It's that same poison that the elites in those countries are empowered by America and how they treat their own civilians. Muslims in America, we have to understand this. And if you can change overnight, try to change overnight. You are no better because of your blue passport.
Exactly.
And those days are coming now where you're going to have to migrate to those countries and your blue passport is not going to matter anymore because people are going to see you like, now what? You're just like us now.
Maybe even despise you more.
Exactly. So don't remember, it's not your blue passport that gives you izzah. It's Allah that gives you izzah, no matter where you are.
All right, brothers, we're out of time. Waleed is having some camera problems, but can you still hear me, Waleed?
I can, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for coming. Please help us out on patreon.com/The Mamluks. Throw a comment in the comment section below. Like if you haven't done so already. Imad, do you have any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I just like to say that I come on here with these brothers that do this all on their own, basically bankrolled by themselves. You know, if you went to McDonald's and purchased some poison burgers and poison fries, it'd cost you $20 to do it. Try to help these brothers out and try to donate to these brothers, man. This stuff here costs money. I had no idea what I come over here and I sit in this chair and I put this headphones on like I'm some big shot or something like that, and I didn't realize what it took to get. It's just, now you don't come sit your butt in this chair. It took work to do this, to these tables and these TVs. So please, brothers and sisters, if you can, please share, like, comment. That's the least you could do, but it would be appreciated. MashaAllah, most Muslims are, Allah has given us, endowed us with money. Try to help and support this brother by donating to this.
Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair.
Waleed, if you can just do me one favor. I know I talked a lot. Waleed, if you can please give salam to your family and let them know that, man. Wallahi, that the family effort that you guys are putting in, it is such a big inspiration. Number one, it makes us reflect and be like, bro, we got to be more like this family. So Allah reward your mother.
Is there any kind of charity that you recommend, Waleed?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Very straightly, I work with Humanity Auxilium.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Right now, Humanity Auxilium.
Auxilium?
I'll type the name.
Yeah, I think you're gonna have to. I'll put it in the episode description. Just shoot me the link.
Oh, I have an important question for him too.
Okay. Imad's got a question.
I have an important question. I'm on TikTok pretty heavy, and I hear people talking about trying to gather money together, and there are people actually donating. Is money getting to the brothers and sisters? There's a lot of this stuff a scam. I was warned by a sister on Facebook, be careful and don't donate, and go to the mosque and donate possibly at the mosque, because there's a lot of there's even Zayos on there who are actually pretending to be people from Gaza and Palestinians and Muslims, and people are giving them money, and there's been about this stuff. Are they able to receive some of this money like through TikTok donations and stuff like that, so I could at least get the word back and people are not giving their money away? I'd rather they give some of the people help this brother with this podcast.
No. Donate to Gaza if as long as
no. You missed my point. My point is, I'd rather it goes to a good cause like this than to be ripped off.
Of course,
by somebody. That's what I meant. Not Gaza. No, I'd give what I have to Gaza if I could reach it. But I don't want somebody throwing money away when they could give it. At least we know it's going to a good cause. Yeah.
Each one of us would gladly
so
go
please
there.
educate us on that, since you've been there, man, because that way I could let people know, because there's a lot of fear and stuff that
honestly, right now when you're sending money, you want to be very, very careful of where it's being sent, and very, like, you want to look into that a lot.
Yes.
Basically, just because of how difficult this situation is, right? So honestly, by my estimation, most of the money you've sent, most of the money I've sent, has not entered Gaza yet.
Exactly.
It's stuck at the border.
Subhanallah.
That's
There
the
are very few organizations that are working on the ground. So basically, like once we're going in, we're a very small organization, right? We're just based in Canada in the States. But for example, like most much bigger organizations than us, like in the US scene, I haven't heard of a single organization from Canada, the US, maybe Muslim organization to be very clear, that's entered Gaza right now. So from Canada and the US, we're the only ones who have been able to enter.
And the PayPal thing, there is no PayPal there, and you got people talking about PayPal. And people are donating to it. This is what I'm talking about.
Chaos.
No, forget PayPal, Ya Rabbi, Ya Rabbi. That's why we have to be careful.
Yes.
Right? Honestly,
You see?
honestly, right now, the only two organizations who I can say that if you send money, this will be going on the ground in Gaza is UNRWA and the Palestinian Red Crescent.
Palestinian Crescent?
Apart
Palestinian Red
Palestinian
Crescent.
Red Crescent.
Palestinian Red Crescent,
Yeah.
yes.
The thing is, of course, these organizations operate with a lot of overheads. So that's something you have to factor in.
Yes.
But at this point, just because of how tough the situation is, like despite the overheads, I'd say that's those are good people to support.
I agree.
Especially with UNRWA. I mean, I don't think UNRWA is necessarily just a thing of you send your donations there, but it's upon all of us to put a lot of political pressure. Because I mean, fully honest, coming from the ground, there is a lot like that runs in Gaza on UNRWA right now in this war, right? So it's I think a lot of us have huge responsibility as well to make sure that our governments and our taxpayer money is at least going back there to maybe counteract some of the other places our taxpayer money is going. Other than that, you can support us, right? We're planning on sending teams constantly into Gaza throughout the year. Our next team is going, I think we have some folks on the ground right now who just went, associated with us, not directly our workers. And our next team is going March 11th, I believe. So we're not 24/7 in Gaza. But the money that we get, once we are in Gaza, it's going to go towards that. But other than that, honestly, because there's so few organizations on the ground, and I don't want to, like Islamic Relief, Islamic Relief, all those kind of stuff, none of those people have anything on the ground just because of how, and I don't blame them, right? But it's so impossibly tough. Like it's a miracle. It's a karam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we were able to get through, right? Other than us, honestly, like the top two names that come into my head are UNRWA and Palestinian Red Crescent.
Jeez, the shame that you have to listen to people that are doing this on their own in emergency situation, people who have strength and armies and stuff and just sitting.
They're just sitting.
Like why are civilians taking care of this?
Just sitting there, and you have this Abdullah guy in Jordan with all these medals on there, hasn't fought one war.
No, but do people understand, like, why is it difficult for aid? Like, did we think about that? I know the podcast wasn't finished, but it doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like we're living in reality. It's like, how is it that
I'll say
aid can't get in?
I'll say
money's not getting in.
I'll say, I guess Kanye was right. These people run everything.
No, but
and we're not talking about Jews. We're talking about Zionists.
No, I understand that, man. But I'm just thinking about the shame that leaders have to go through. Go to sleep at night and be like, bro, there's 21-year-old dudes with their families and their mothers who have their own life, who are not a part of a government, who don't have power, obviously, except for the power of Allah, but they're not known in the world to be able to move mountains. And don't the leaders look at them and be like, bro, we have these people that are leaving their families and their homes to do this because we could do this in a snap of our finger if we really wanted to, but our Baba Israel is going to get angry if we do anything. So we'll just sit back and let these civilians take care of everything.
These
What a
people,
horrible,
no,
crazy
these people aren't human. They're
not.
They're dogs of hell. I don't know what else word to describe them with. You can't be human to not feel that pain. But brothers and sisters, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see y'all next time. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Nice meeting you. I think this